Ayurvedic nutrition is based on ancient principles from India that promote balance and harmony in our bodies and our mind. And so in today's video, we're going to talk about the guidelines that emphasize not only the physical aspects of food, but also the impact that food has on our mental and emotional health. Hello, my name is Sunny and welcome to my channel, Sunshine Wellness. Here we dive into the world of wellness, focusing on living our best lives through mindful practices and holistic health. Whether you're new to wellness or a seasoned enthusiast, there's something here for everyone. I believe life is a beautiful journey, and living our best lives is all about embracing positivity and making the most of every moment. So first, let's talk about what actually is Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is a 5,000-year-old system of natural healing, and it originates in India. And the word Ayurveda itself actually means the science of life. And so food plays a huge role in this system. The basic idea is really that food isn't just fuel, it's used as medicine, energy, and information for our bodies, mind, and spirit. And so we're going to start the video with talking about the unique constitutions or dosha. And if you're not new to my channel, you know we've talked about the different doshas being Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And we need to think of them as energies that govern our physical and mental characteristics. Vata comes from the elements of air and space. Pitta comes from the elements of fire and water, and Kapha comes from the elements of earth and water. Vata tends to be light, dry, cold, and mobile. It is governed by movement. Pitta is very hot, very sharp, very oily and intense. And Pitta is actually what governs our digestive system. And then Kapha, being earth and water, is very heavy and slow and soft and stable. And Kapha is associated and governs our body structure. And so understanding what your personal dosha is will help you to choose the right foods for balance. Now let's actually talk about some of the Ayurvedic principles regarding food. First, we want to always eat fresh, whole foods, okay? Foods that are in season and local whenever possible. And we want to favor warm cooked meals because they're just easier to digest. We want to use digestion boosting spices in our foods like ginger and cumin, coriander, even turmeric. And then another principle that I try to follow very strictly is to not overeat and leave some space in the stomach to help with the digestion. And then lastly, eat in a peaceful environment. One of the principles of Ayurveda is that we actually eat our emotions, right? And so if you are, let's say, having dinner with someone and you get into an argument, the best thing to do would be to stop eating because you want to have a low stress environment when you're eating, because food really isn't just about nutrients. It's about how you eat and when we eat it too. Now, I really want you to, if you take nothing else away from this video, is to really take note of food combinations, okay? And so in Ayurveda, combining the wrong foods can actually lead to indigestions, toxins, and imbalance in the digestive system. And I love watching YouTube videos. I love seeing people prepare food. I'm definitely a foodie, but I have seen so many people that are combining their food and in ways that I know just really isn't good for the digestive system. For example, I'll see people making a beautiful breakfast parfait, and they have the yogurt and the fruit and the granola, and they're doing it wrong. So I want to talk to you about some Ayurvedic no-nos, okay? Fruit and dairy. I want you to think like banana and milk. It is super heavy on the digestive system and very mucus forming. And then protein and starch. things like your meat and potatoes. It's very, very tough on the digestive fire. And then yogurt with anything hot disturbs the digestion. It creates imbalance. And then melons. Melons should always be eaten alone. And in fact, fruit should always be eaten alone. Okay? And I can do a whole separate video. And if you're interested, I can do a separate video just on combining food. But fruit, there is this rule. Eat it alone or leave it alone, because if you eat fruit, you want to eat it on an empty stomach, okay? Now, I really want to deep dive into this because you may be thinking, well, I eat this all the time, but again, certain food combinations will either nourish or disrupt our digestion and lead to poor absorption, gas, bloating, and even the buildup of toxins. And so when we combine our food in the right ways, it's about respecting the different digestion times and energies and effects of various foods and how they have and what they have on us. Okay. And so I want you to think of your digestion, think of it as your agni. That is what is called the inner flame. When it is burning bright, digestion is smooth, the energy is high, and our mind is clear. But when it's weak and overwhelmed, especially by poor food combinations, it may make us feel sluggish or heavy or maybe even feel sick. And so we want to keep our digestive fire flame burning. And that's why it's important to combine our foods in the proper way. So let's get more into it. So I spoke about fruits earlier in the video, and I want to explain why it's so important to not have fruits with any other foods. And that is because fruit actually digests so much faster. And when you mix them with heavier foods like dairy or grains or even meat, they sit and ferment, which leads to gas and bloating. And so always make sure you eat your fruits solo. Ideally 30 minutes before a meal. And that's the great thing because fruit digests so fast. So if you want to eat your fruit, eat it on an empty stomach and then wait 30 minutes and then have your breakfast or then have your lunch. But a lot of people make the mistake of eating a heavy meal and then they think, oh, I'm going to eat something low sugar, so I'll have fruit for my dessert. And that's a common mistake that is made. Now let's talk about milk. It's very important that we avoid combining milk with almost everything. And the reason is because milk is a sensitive food in Ayurveda, and it doesn't pair well with things like sour fruits or fish. It doesn't pair well with bananas or salty foods. If you're going to have milk, you want to have it by itself. You could combine a little spice like cardamom in your milk or turmeric for like a golden milk, but you want to make sure you have it by itself. Again, it is a very sensitive food. And so sometimes when people are struggling with sinus infections or mucus, a lot of the times it's because they're combining milk with foods, and that is wreaking havoc on our digestive system. And it's very mucus forming when combined with other foods. And while we're talking about milk, let's also talk about dairy. Two combinations that just don't go very well together are animal protein and dairy. So think fish and yogurt, which is a big no-no because it does disrupt the digestive fire. And then also beans and dairy, which this one was a very difficult one for me when I was a dairy eater, because I loved bean burrito with cheese, right? But even though they're both creamy and comforting, beans and dairy are very hard to digest together. So it's better to pair beans with warming spices and veggies instead. So we've talked about the things that we should avoid to keep our digestion working smoothly. And so in the next video, we're going to talk about the foods that do combine well, because we want to eat foods that actually support our digestion and balance our doshas. So stay tuned for the next video where we're going to talk about other Ayurvedic principles, and we'll talk about the type of foods that do combine well. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of my content, follow me over on Instagram at Sunshine Wellness 24. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, be well.